Hi, Laura. Thanks for coming back. How have things been for you this week?
Things have been all right. I would say about average to how things usually are.
Okay. What good things do you have that have happened to you over the past week at work?
Um, I'm a hotline supervisor. Right now I currently supervise one staff that is an investigator. Beginning October 1st, I'll have two full time. And hotlines have been really quiet this week. So that piece of the job has been non-stressful. So
That's
it's positive.
good. I'm going to say, what has that allowed you to enjoy since that's kind of calmed down at work?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's allowed me to enjoy anything, but I've been able to focus more. We had a placement disruption. Some kids that had been staying with a relative were no longer able to stay with that relative anymore because of some issues with some people that this relative moved into. So we had three kids that needed a new placement. So for the majority of one of the afternoons, I worked on finding them a new placement and then coordinating getting them to that placement with the help of my investigator, who graciously drove them an hour and a half to their new placement. And then we've had some other kiddos come into care recently, and those cases have been assigned to the new staff in our office. So I've been helping my new staff member learn how to do a 24-hour, how to do all the initial stuff you have to do when a kid comes into care, like a 24-hour worker-child visit, and 24-hour FST meeting, and 72-hour FST meeting, and those types of things. So I've been more focused on the supervisor OJT part of it versus the hotline part of it.
Is that something you enjoy or one of the parts of the job that you like?
I don't not like it. I think it's more enjoyable for me when I'm not so stressed and not so overwhelmed. Like right now, since I'm trying to be a supervisor and case manage cases because we've been down so many staff, and also finish up my practicum, I feel like I don't have any extra time to spare when I'm at work. And so I do enjoy my new staff, and I do enjoy being a part of those things with them, but it's just in the back of my mind, when I'm doing those things, I think, I need to do this, this, and this too, because I have all this other stuff that's mine that's waiting for me. And so it's definitely more enjoyable when when I'm just being a supervisor and I can devote the time to them that I need to devote. So right now, I feel like I'm not doing anything as good as it needs to be done.
So you feel like nothing's getting the time it needs.
Right. I'm just everything's getting 50% of my attention instead of 100% because I'm trying to do too many things.
Okay, let's look at the homework you had for last week and say, I wanted you to identify situations that made you stressful or anxious. When you noticed those feelings, kind of make a note of what the situation surrounding that was. Were you able to identify any of those?
Yeah, and I think that they relate back to what I was just talking about with, while hotlines have been a non-issue this week, we've had some kids disrupt placement, and we've had some other kids come into care, as an initial custody arrangement. So I've been focusing on helping my new staff, do referrals for placement, or do referrals for relative licensure for a family member that took placement of one of those kiddos, and helping to facilitate meetings and model how to conduct these meetings. And so it's stressful to be in those situations, not because I don't enjoy it, like I said, but because I know I have 10,000 other things of my own or other responsibilities that I need to devote time to as well. And I can't be a case manager and a supervisor and
Yeah.
give each of those roles the attention that they deserve. Like, I feel like either the case management piece is lacking or the supervisor piece is lacking. And that's stressful for me because I like to do things well, and I don't feel like I'm doing things well right now.
Okay. So that's kind of a broad area. So it sounds like maybe you had a little difficulty identifying just one situation. It's kind of almost like a category.
It is. It's like all of these different situations that intermingle, and so it's more like it's not just like one part of my day. It's like my work environment right now. Like, that's what it looks like. It's all kind of this chaos and this stress.
Okay, so I want to kind of work on setting an agenda for today. I'm going to say last week you identified work was kind of the number one issue you had, and then school and kids. And it wasn't so much the kids themselves, just the schedule and the upkeep and all of that. And we kind of ruled out talking about the kids that was, you said it was pretty much nothing you couldn't handle. It was just one more thing you had to do.
Right.
So we were focused mainly on work and the fact that you were feeling overwhelmed and stressed. What would you like to work on, or what kind of an agenda would we like to look at today?
I think work definitely is still, the biggest issue. It's like it's been stressful for a long time, and it's a stressful job anyway, to work in child welfare. But you can kind of deal with that stress if you have like stability and positive relationships with the people that you work with. But that has been like with staff being gone and there being drama in the office and dynamic issues between myself and the other supervisor. Like, I'm losing that part of it. Like, you could deal with the stress of the crappy situations and the not so nice families you have to deal with if you have the other like supportive piece of it, but that's kind of been less than what I've been used to in the past. And so that's definitely like the main source of stress, because it just kind of, it's like never ending, and it kind of carries with me even like after hours.
Right. Last week you also talked about drama and dynamic. Can you define for me, when you say drama, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot of things. We've been down several staff. We've had 3 staff members in the office, and only two of those are like could be considered experienced staff, because the third was still on probation.
Right.
And then there was another supervisor, myself, and our circuit manager. So we've had 6 people doing the work of 11 people.
Right.
So that is very exhausting, and that's very overwhelming. And, the staff that we have had in the office have been kind of negative about things. And I'm sure that negativity stems from, the fact that they're, like me, they're exhausted and overwhelmed. And so that negativity and kind of constant complaining, that's drama. But then the new staff that we're bringing on board, we already have some strong personalities in the office, and then we've added some more strong personalities onto that. And so there's not any major like conflicts, but just a lot of I think they get easily annoyed with each other, because some of the strong personalities are similar to other strong personalities. And so just that new dynamic in the office and how that's all going to mesh together, on top of we're trying to come out of this big slump where we've not had any staff and we've just, been trying to survive. So all of that.
So would it be fair to say that the drama then is basically all of these new people that are joining your team, new and old people, learning how to get along with each other?
Well, learning how to get along and like trying to get out of the slump that we've been in, and kind of trying to get out of this negative haze that's kind of been surrounding our circuit. Like, there's just a lot going on at once, and kind of trying to work all that.
So when you're saying slump, are you referring to like the dynamic that was not working, moving more towards a better dynamic of teamwork, like you had mentioned last week?
yeah, the dynamic that wasn't working, the fact that we just didn't have enough staff, like logistically didn't have enough staff to really do the quality of work we want to do. And, you know, there's been dynamic issues in the office. And so we're kind of trying to hopefully repair that.
Okay. So we want to kind of work on looking at things at work. And I say one thing that strikes me when you talk, and you did it last week as well, and I say, you said wear 3 different hats. You've got a lot of different things going on, and you feel like you're not giving anything 100%. You feel like you're 50% with everything.
Yeah. And I don't like that. And that's been like, I am very committed to my job as a supervisor. And I feel like my role as a supervisor is to be available to my staff and to be there and to be able to support them when they need me, but also to empower them. I don't micromanage them, and I don't like sit over their shoulder scrutinizing everything they do. I trust them. I let them do their job, and I want them to view me as somebody who's there for them when they need me. You know, and somebody that they can count on. And so I take that responsibility very seriously, and it's difficult for me to feel like I'm not able to give my supervisory role like the full attention that I want to give it, because I've got to do this other stuff too.
Okay. So I'm going to say, do you feel like you're not doing quality work at 50%?
I feel like it's not the quality that I want it to be. I don't know that it's troublesome work or that it's bad work necessarily, but it's not the quality that I want to be doing, and so that's the issue.
Okay. If in an ideal world everything is the way it needs to be at work, what does quality work look like to you?
Well, you know, one role I wanna go back to being able to be a supervisor and focus on, you know, because right now, you know, if my staff gets into a situation where we have kids that have come into care, or we get 2 emergency hotlines, you know, I used to be able to be like, what can I do to help? Like, you know, I can go get these kids, or I can go make contact on this hotline, or here I can sit here and help you find placement. And now that's dependent on, well, do I have an FST meeting of my own that I have to go do because I'm case managing these 10 cases, or do I have my own home visits, or do I have my own placement disruptions that I have to deal with? So I don't have that availability like I used to have to jump in and to say, you know, what do you need from me, and I can give it to you. And like, I don't know if I'm going to be available, or if I'm going to be able to do, you know, all the things that I've been able to do in the past. So.
Okay. And in a situation where something comes up and fellow staff members are needing help and you have something else scheduled, what type of feelings do you experience when that happens?
I would say there's definitely some, like, I feel stressed and I feel overwhelmed, and I think I'm pretty good at problem solving, like after a brief period of panic, like, but it's internal panic. Like I have all these thoughts racing through my head. I'm like, okay, how am I going to make this work? And then I kind of like take a deep breath, and I can usually figure it out. And so unless it's something like a 24-hour worker child visit that has to be done like within a certain time frame, I can usually work it out to maybe reschedule my visit, or you know, have one of the new staff help me with it if it's something that they've learned and that they're comfortable with doing. So.
Right. So when you get this overwhelmed feeling, I'm going to say, do you notice any physical responses to that? I mean, you know, sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I notice I hold my breath. You know, do you notice anything like that affecting you?
I think I just have, just like I said, the moments of racing thoughts, and I kind of just need this minute where like nobody's, like I just need a minute of no like external stimulation, like just a moment to process it and kind of get my thoughts in order. And I'm sure that, I guess I've never really paid attention to like my emotional reaction or like my physiological reaction Like I assume maybe I get a little bit overheated and worked up, but I don't know. Like I don't have the specific like racing hard or I hold my breath or anything like that. At least not that I've noticed. So
Okay.
I'm sure there's something there, but I've been
Nope.
too focused on my racing thoughts to notice what it is.
Okay. And are they racing just about what things you need to do, what needs to happen? What types of things are
Yeah.
these racing thoughts?
You know, it's like as soon as like crisis hits, like my brain goes into overdrive. Like it automatically starts working on, okay, how can I make this work? What can we do? Who can do what so that we can get this resolved as quickly as possible? And so I have a lot of thoughts going through my head, and it's kind of like this automatic problem solving mode that I go into.
Right. And it sounds like that's a little bit unproductive for you, keeping it all in your head. Do you ever try to utilize or incorporate other people and problem solve out loud with them so they can learn what runs through your head? Because it sounds like with a lot of new staff, they don't know the procedures and you're trying to handle this as one person,
Right.
and then divvy out what you can to them.
Depending on what the situation is, we do collaborate a lot as a team within the office. And so, if my circuit manager's in the office, I can talk to her. If there's some other experienced staff, like I work pretty closely with my investigator, and she's like the go-to person who volunteers for everything. And so we can usually come up with some type of plan. But if it's just um, like a crisis of my own that doesn't necessarily involve other people in the office, then I don't probably do that like external collaboration as much. It's more so something that I like to try to work out, by myself.
Okay. Do you think it would be helpful are you a to-do list type person? I mean, writing it out and physically having a paper in your hands, so you can kind of see yourself checking things off that need done. Do you feel that would help you at all?
I do occasionally do to-do lists, depending on, like I don't do them for everything, but if I have something, like if I also do a lot of like internal to-do lists. Like I have to keep up. One of my responsibilities is I have to make sure that hotlines are concluded and read in a timely manner. And so I look at my like hotline log at the beginning of the week and see like how many do I have to read and get approved this week. And so then I can keep a mental note and like kind of plan my week so that if I have 7 reports that I need to read by Friday, that I can kind of break it down and say, oh, well, I have time to do 2 or 3 today, and I can do two or 3 on Thursday and 2 on Friday. I kind of try to do a mental to-do list and keep track of what all has to be done so that I can keep on track and not fall behind.
Right. So when you talk about stress being pretty much all around, what coping strategies do you use to help yourself kind of de-escalate your feelings?
I use a lot of ventilation, like with friends, or there was a coworker of mine who used to work at the agency. She now works at the juvenile office, so I can like vent to her in general terms about something, and like she's worked for the agency, so she kind of like, even if I'm being vague or general about something, she understands like at least what that situation's like based on she's worked there before. So I can just be like, oh, today was a horrible day. We had 4 kids come into care and we had a placement disrupt, so I had to find placement, and she kind of understands what that's like because she's done it before. So I have somebody that I can vent to. I also just like I take time every day, like after I put my kids to bed, to just kind of sit down, and whether that's like veg out and watch TV or veg out and like surf Facebook on my phone, and I just make sure that I have a period of time every day before bed to just kind of not do anything but mindless activity so that I can unwind.
That sounds good. Well, I'm going to say it's time for us to kind of wrap things up. I'm going to say We've identified that work is still stressing. I'm going to say we've had a little bit of trouble identifying anything in particular that's stressful or anxious. Is kind of a whole category. Just, I would call pretty much new employees, not that it's the employees themselves, but just the process of getting them acclimated and trained. Do you think that sounds fair and accurate?
Yeah, I would say the new employees and that OJT process on top of just the fact that this work is stressful anyway, like just because of the type of work it is, that adds to that stress list.
Okay. Well, and with the CBT therapy, our goal is to identify thoughts that are maybe distorted or not working well for you, which cause the distressful emotions and stuff, and identify behaviors that we can modify or change that will help with those thoughts. Like you have identified feeling like you're not giving anything 100%, and sounds a lot like you don't feel like you're doing things as well as you would like.
Absolutely.
Okay. My suspicion is that you're doing things much better than what you're giving yourself credit for. So I'm going to say for homework, I would kind of like to switch that around a little bit, and I'd like for you to identify at least one thing every day that you feel like you did very well.
Okay.
I
could probably do that.
I'm going to say, do you think maybe looking at things more in a positive frame would be helpful?
I definitely could benefit from some positive thinking.
Okay.
So I think that, yeah, it probably would be helpful.
Okay. What are your thoughts on it? Say that we've met twice now. How do you feel things are going? What have you felt like you've learned from these sessions?
I feel like things are going well so far, and even the opportunity to just talk and get things off my chest and bounce ideas off of another individual, that's beneficial. And so I definitely think too, like being more, something we've talked about with the CBTs, being more cognitive of the thoughts that I'm having, like when I'm in these high stress situations, that's helpful. So.
Right. Is there anything differently that I can do, or anything that you feel I need to do differently?
I don't think so.
Okay. Can you name me one positive thing that you got out of the session today?
Like you said, just, the reminder to be more cognizant of my thoughts, and am I having positive thoughts? Am I having negative thoughts? What do those thoughts look like? And just, like I said, just being able to talk to someone else who listens is beneficial. So.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to see you back next week. Will the same time work for you?
It will.
All right. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks.